I call to order the meeting of the Cleveland Heights University Heights City School District Board of Education meeting for October 3rd. Mr. Gaynor, will you call the roll?
Mr. Hines.
Here.
Ms. Lewis.
Here.
Mr. Posh.
Here.
Ms. Serini.
Here.
Ms. Wright.
I just want to announce that Ms. Wright could not be here tonight, or she may be running late, so if she does make it, I will move back to my seat and she'll take over running the meeting. So bear with us if we have that little switch. And if she doesn't get here, then I will continue to run it. So at this point, I will turn the meeting over to our superintendent to go over awards and recognitions.
Good evening and welcome. I'd like to begin tonight's meeting by recognizing Heights High students who have demonstrated college-level achievement through their performances on AP exams, earning Advanced Placement Scholar Awards. We have a total of 57 AP Scholars. We are extremely proud of you all. When you hear your name, please come up front and center. We'll take a group photo after all the names have been read. Several of our students being recognized are 2023 graduates and will not be in attendance because they are away at college. The AP Scholar Award is granted to students who receive scores of 3 or higher on 3 or more AP exams. All 29 of their names are on the screen. Of those students, we have the following AP Scholars with us here tonight. Milo Goldmark, come on up. Malcolm McPherson. Lucas Miller. Yes, if you could to stay, yeah, we're gonna take a picture. Sorry. And Tavish Sweeney. Is Tavish here? All right, let's give them a round of applause. And we're gonna take a picture at the end. So should they come back? They should stay. Okay. Okay, guys. All right. 11 students.
Probably step up.
Yes, that's a good idea.
There you go.
There you go. Yes.
I'm sure you're used to being in the back row.
11 students were recognized as AP Scholars with honor. This award is granted to students who receive an average score of at least 3.25 on all AP exams taken and scores of 3 or higher on 4 or more of these exams. We have the following AP Scholars with honor with us tonight. Avery Bandy Zaltouris, please come up. And David Banks. 17 students were named AP Scholars with distinction. This award is granted to students who receive an average score of at least 3.5 on all AP exams taken and scores of 3 or higher on 5 or more of these exams. Representing this group of students we have with us here tonight, Natalie Beer, Caleb Green, and Sophia Mueller. And finally, one student received the AP International Diploma Award.
Wow.
Right.
We haven't had one of those.
This is a globally recognized certificate awarded to students with exceptional achievement across various disciplines. This certificate is available for international students applying to colleges outside of the country. This award is granted to students with an average score of 3 or higher on 5 or more of these exams. Representing this group of students we have with us here tonight, Avery Bandy Zaltouris. So Avery, if you could raise your hand again. We're gonna now take a picture, students, so we'll come join you.
Squish, 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 squish.
I'll take a few on three. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Congratulations, students. And for the students and other guests, we do have some refreshments outside. So if you don't want to stay for the entire board meeting, though you are definitely welcome to, please
Probably have homework to do.
take advantage of those refreshments. All right.
Bravo, bravo to all of you.
Next tonight, we recognize our Tiger Team members of the month for September. These Cleveland Heights University Heights staff members have been recognized by their peers and community members for going above and beyond to contribute to the culture of excellence in our district continuously. Your colleagues who nominated you for this recognition have shared these heartfelt words about you. From the Board of Education, so if you're here, please come to the front. Jamar Butler. Jamar always goes above and beyond to help the district and others. He's also friendly and pleasant when you interact with him. Jamar prioritized cutting the grass at the BOE on the Friday before Labor Day. Jamar, thank you for always going above and beyond to ensure the district looks nice. From Boulevard Elementary School, Joy Curry. Mrs. Curry is a fantastic person. She is the go-to person when it comes to handling most situations. She is always willing to help and has an amazing relationship with students, staff, and families. The students know that she truly cares about them academically as well as personally. Mrs. Curry believes in us and knows Boulevard is number one. From Canterbury Elementary School, Darlene Bolden. Mrs. Bolden has been one of the most welcoming staff members since beginning teaching at Canterbury. This is my first year at CHUH, so I was in over the summer setting up my room. She has been so encouraging and uplifting. She compliments my classroom, how I've taken on a challenging room, and brightens my day. So, Mrs. Bolden, please stay there. From Delisle Option Center, Karen Laboda. Karen is always happy to help no matter how often I call her. She always has an answer to my question, whatever it is, even if she is just directing me to someone who can answer my question. I know I can count on her. From Fairfax Elementary School, Dr. Andrea Walker. Our new principal has made a great change at Fairfax. Dr. Walker is confident, self-assured, intelligent, logical, equitable, and a kind and dedicated individual. We are so lucky to have her leading our school to greatness. From Garrity, Sean Sullivan. I am recommending Sean for his dedication to our STEM program. He has dealt with health issues but still gives 100% to ensure our students receive a quality STEM education. He is willing to partner with the Natural History Museum, bringing in guest speakers and implementing innovative programming. He also has led our student council, giving Garrity students a voice in our school program. From Heights High School, Taylor Smith. Taylor has been a vital part of why the high school has gotten off to such a good start this year. He is a wealth of knowledge and is always willing to jump in and lead the charge. He is always willing to teach and lend a helping hand whenever he can. I appreciate his willingness to help others around him and go above and beyond to ensure that the job gets done. From Monticello Middle School, Leslie Garrett. Ms. Garrett has stepped in to lead our 7th grade individuals in societies to start the school year. She has taken this responsibility while meeting her district responsibilities as an IB coordinator. Her efforts have enabled our students to begin the school year in a safe, supportive, and respectful learning environment. She also stepped up to lead our 7th grade team as team leader this school year. Her commitment to students is an example to us all. From Noble Elementary School, Brittany Graham. Brittany helps to create a culture of warmth and inclusiveness for all members of our Noble family. She is willing to step in and do whatever is needed. She creates opportunities for students to feel successful and treats everyone with respect and dignity. We'd be lost at Noble without her. From Oxford Elementary, Tony White. Tony has made a seamless transition into her new role as assistant principal at Oxford Elementary School. She has made connections with staff and students and has quickly become an important member of the Oxford community. From Roxborough Elementary School, Jennifer Musgrave. Besides being a role model of a kindergarten teacher with her engaging lessons and focus on student development, she made her new colleague feel welcomed and supported. Jen is also a member of the IB leadership team, the BLT, and is a co-union representative of Roxborough. We are lucky to have her in the building. And from Roxborough Middle School, Josh Luton. Mr. Luton is the glue that binds together the longtime staff in the building and the new faces and leadership that have arrived this year. Mr. Luton has jumped in on everything from day one. He worked all summer to support Ms. Sharp in ensuring we had a full staff to open the year. He comes in daily with a smile and a heart to love kids and support adults. He works tirelessly to ensure a welcoming environment where students can learn unhindered. Congratulations to the winners. We are going to take a picture. Thank you for all you do.
Let's scoot down a little bit more.
Trying to hide. Doesn't look very well. Jenny's not tall enough.
Thank you all.
Have some 2- and 3-time winners up there.
We do.
All right.
Recognizing the names. Principals.
Yeah.
This concludes our recognitions for this evening, and I'm going to now turn it over to Heights High seniors, which I cannot believe. Deshara Turner and Kareem Azam for the student cadre report.
Good evening, board members, Superintendent Kirby, and Mr. Grainer. My name is Kareem Azam, and I'm a senior at Heights High.
My name is Deshara Turner, and I am a senior at Heights High. As members of the superintendent student cadre, we are here to give you a brief report about what's happening at Heights High. We are honored to be here this evening, and thank you for the opportunity.
First, we would like to tell you about our athletic teams and provide an update about the several upcoming events at Heights High. Football is off to a 6-1 start. They host Medina at this Friday in the GCC matchup. That will have significant ramifications for the league champions. As of right now, it looks like they will host 1 or 2 playoff games. Cross country had a tremendous day at Madison's meet. Sophomore Alex Burrock finished 2nd overall. Monticello 8th grader Jayla Davis also finished 2nd overall in her meet. The team is preparing for the GCC champions meet in 2 weeks, followed by the district meet. Girls tennis did a great job this year balancing entering a new conference in the Greater Cleveland Conferences, as well as the NEOTA schedule. With 28 girls coming out for this tennis year, for tennis this year, it was the largest team in years. They will celebrate senior night tomorrow against Brush at Kane Park to wrap up their season. Volleyball has also done a fantastic job against a much tougher league league schedule. The girls have fought hard to improve weekly. Highlights of their season include beating Shaker twice, including at senior night. Boys soccer is also having a strong season. They currently sit 7-4-1, with 3 losers coming by 1 goal to state-ranked teams. Highlight of their season include defeating Strongsville at the first GCC game. The boys team has seen themselves ranked as high as 15th in our district. Girls soccer. The girls soccer team have battled with the injury bug this year, but it's given them a ton of young players an opportunity to gain valuable experience. They have fought hard in many of their matches in the GCC. Highlight of the season including an 8-0 win over Brush on senior night.
Here are a few important events that are happening at Heights High. Homecoming weekend took place on September 22nd and 23rd, showcasing Tiger Nation with the celebration of our Heights High athletes at a pep rally, a spirited parade, and a 41-0 Heights football win and a fairy tale-inspired dance. The class of 2027 participated in a variety of events and activities last week to celebrate National Gear Up Week and understand the importance of investing in one's education and overall life. Heights High held its first instant admissions college day for the school year on Friday, September 29th with Youngstown State University. Students who attended were able to speak with the college representative, have their application fees waived, and will find out by the end of this week if they have been accepted to Youngstown State. For the month of October, the community is invited to the 43rd Annual Distinguished Alumni Hall of Fame induction ceremony this Thursday, October 5th. The ceremony is free and will take place at 4:30 in the Heights High Auditorium. The honorees will then visit Heights High classrooms and speak with students the following day. PSAT testing for 10th and 11th graders will take place on October 11th. 9th and 12th graders will spend the day participating in activities that will support college and career readiness. The Heights High DECA members will host their first community blood drive of the year with the American Red Cross on Tuesday, October 17th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. in the competition gym. Community members can sign up for an appointment to donate at redcrossblood.org. Heights Career Tech is hosting the Fall in Love with CTE Fair on October 21st from noon to 3 o'clock at Heights High. The event is free and will showcase the opportunities and benefits of the career and technical education programs.
Next, I would like to talk about how Heights High School shaped me. Like many others, I started my high school career in an unprecedented way, behind a computer screen. During the pandemic, the Cleveland Heights High School teachers still tried their very hardest to connect with us. I remember multiple times where teachers would tell us that their virtual door is always open. These connections have stayed with me up until today. And now, 3 years later and 8 months away from graduation, I can confidently say that the Heights molded me into the best version of myself. I'm very proud to say that I have grown at Heights by working hard and having an amazing support system. I believe that Heights is a unique place, a place where everyone belongs and where everyone is accepted.
Now I will speak on my experience at Cleveland Heights High School. Although this is my last year, I am glad to say that I have had some memorable memories throughout all 4 years here. I have made amazing friends and connected with amazing educators who I can rely on when I need advice on an academic standpoint. There is so much I'm not ready to let go of, but I know this is a place that I can always come back to. It is my pleasure as I do my last board meeting report for the cadre. I would like to say thank you to the staff and my peers that have had a major influence on the person that I have become as I get ready to move on to college. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. I don't know if it's going to be your last meeting, but good try. All right, that concludes the meeting opening. So
now we'll move on to the school spotlight.
School spotlight. This month we are featuring Roxborough Middle School for our school spotlight. So I invite Ms. Sharp and her team to the podium to share some highlights of things happening at Rox Mid.
So we are trying to share our screen, but it did not pop up. But we will get started.
Ms. Sharp, if you want to share it with me real quick.
I sure can. Thank you. Sorry about that. While we are getting things started, we'll go ahead and start. I will introduce myself and say good evening. My name is Rebecca Sharp. I am the principal at Roxborough Middle School, and I also have with me Mr. Dylan David, who is our Dean of Students, and Dr. Michelle Watson, who is our administrative support at Roxborough. Thank you.
Yay.
Alrighty, so we can move on to the next slide. We just always want to demonstrate what we expect, so when we are presenting to anyone in the district, we always remind people that we are mandated reporters. We can move to the next slide. And all of the different ways that we are able to report. Next slide. And reminding people about the importance of Title IX to make sure that we are in compliance with our district expectations. Next slide, please. Anytime we present to our staff, talk to students, we always want to anchor our work into our strategic plan because we know that is the focus for our district. So the part of the strategic plan, our schools provide a challenging and engaging education and prepare all students to become responsible citizens and succeed in college and career. PBIS and our token economy is really focusing on the responsible citizens piece of our strategic plan. Go right.
So we have a vision for PBIS at Rocks. We want to clearly teach and reteach behavioral expectations in all common areas in classrooms. We want to acknowledge students who demonstrate appropriate behavior with consistency and fidelity. We want to acknowledge the appropriate behavior of individual students at grade levels and at the entire school community level. Provide opportunities for teachers to receive incentives and utilize a token economy to support PBIS as a Tier 1 behavioral support.
And we have 3 behavior non-negotiables.
Can you please speak in the microphone?
I sure will.
All right, otherwise, when it comes out on the tape, you won't be heard.
Thank you.
So, thank
We
you.
have 3 behavior non-negotiables, and that is to be safe, responsible, and respectful at all times, in all locations, and with all peers and adults there in the building and on school grounds. And we do have a plethora of representation on the PBSI team with different content backgrounds. And we do not have a 7th grade representation as of now, but we do plan on replacing that role. Next, please.
So we do monthly meetings with the PBIS team. At these meetings, we review behavior data. We look at the top 5 infractions that we're having in the building. We look at the top 5 locations in which the infractions are occurring. And we look at the top 5 resolutions that we're providing in terms of the behavior that we're seeing, as well as the time of the day of the infraction. We are engaged in dialogue about how to adjust our supervision, expectations, and incentives in alignment with data. We talk about grade level behavior observations, qualitative and quantitative, and we have representation from BLT and TAP to increase transparency and collaboration within the teams. So this is our Tiger Loot. We have some of our students here that are excited to get it. I would say one thing that kind of separates what we're doing at Rocks is we look to kind of provide students with the opportunity to tell us what they want. They provide us with a lot of information on things they would like to do that don't cost us any money, which is always nice, but it's also showing that, there is an incentive for all students. And one thing that the data will show us sometimes with PBIS is it's hard to capture all the students. And I think we're trying to take an initiative to capture what all the students want.
So one thing that I would like to add before we jump into this slide is we just jumped right in. We were so excited that we did not say what PBIS is. So PBIS stands for Positive Behavior Interventions and Supports. And as we mentioned a little bit earlier, it is a Tier 1 or universal intervention to support positive behavior in school buildings. We can go ahead. So our incentive structure includes that grade level teams have autonomy to talk about what behaviors they are experiencing and to come up with specific ways to use Tiger Loot to incentivize seeing their desired behaviors. We also have an incentive structure for building-wide goals to encourage positive behavior from the holistic standpoint. So for grade levels, each grade level has a PBIS store. Our stores open on Friday, and students can spend their Tiger Loot to get all host of items that they're excited about. They voted on what they wanted to be in the store. The kids have been asking. We have just menus and menus of things from Takis to erasers to pens. So we're very excited for the stores to open. And then on the school-wide level, we are offering quarterly incentives. So for first quarter, and because September was Attendance Awareness Month, we called our incentive the 3 for 3. So if students were on time to school every day, on time to class, and were responsible with passes and were gone for no more than 3 minutes, they get access to participating in a 3-on-3 basketball tournament. They might play, they might coach, they might dance, they might sing the national anthem. However they want to engage, they're welcome. And we also have an alternate activity, a game room and a reading room for students who deserve to be acknowledged, but maybe don't want all of the hustle and bustle and noise of a basketball tournament with 600 middle schoolers.
Teachers explicitly state the non-negotiable that was demonstrated in order to earn the Tiger Loop. And they also state what exactly the student did to demonstrate the non-negotiable. Remember, those were be safe, responsible, and respectful. So an example of this would be, thank you for being responsible by being in your seat and ready to learn when the bell rang. Here is some Tiger Loot. And that would be up to the teacher, 1 or 2. The value is $1 per loop. And also make the connection between demonstrating the desired behavior and the reward clear.
So we're going to talk a little bit about the numbers because we always want to make sure that we're tracking data and making data-informed decision. So we rolled out Tiger Loot on Monday, September 18th. Since then, we have made 780 Tiger Loot dollars. Some of those have been passed out. Some of them are still in teachers' possessions. All 3 grade level teams, as we mentioned earlier, will be opening their stores this Friday. So we'll have some exciting data this Friday about how much money the students have collected, what they're spending their money on. We also, in the last PBIS meeting, did some comparative data for September, the end of September last school year and the end of September this year. And we were very excited to see that we have 15 less incidents involving 17 less students and 4 less staff members. So we're not saying it's causation, but we definitely think there's correlation to us gradually moving the needle and seeing improved behavior and our implementation of a token economy and PBIS in a more holistic way. So our next steps to close us out, we are developing a quarter 2 incentive. We had students vote. Overwhelmingly, all 3 grades want a movie and popcorn in the auditorium, so we are going to find a way to make it happen. If you would like to donate popcorn or have a movie or anything, we would be open to that. We want to continue to grow our capacity to utilize Tiger Loot in the hallways and during transitions because we acknowledge that those times are important to make sure we're teaching and reteaching expectations as well. And finally, we want to continue to monitor the effectiveness of Tiger Loot and making sure that it's aligning grade level and school-wide incentives to student interests so that it continues to be effective. Thank you so much for having us this evening.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. It's like a little work session almost. That's great. Thank you for sharing that spotlight. Really ties to also the district PBIS work, so it's very helpful to see the work in action at Roxborough Middle School as a model in a structure that other schools can replicate. So thank you. All right.
All right.
Don't we
Thank
have
you.
one other school that uses a non-negotiable? Was that Noble?
Those 3, those are actually district-wide. But Noble definitely emphasizes the be safe, be responsible,
Okay.
be
I mean, with Tiger Loot. I mean, there was some.
respectful.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm just hoping that
But
we can be
Monticello
rewarded.
also
for
has
good behavior.
Monty Bucks, I think. Monticello has something.
Do we? Okay.
So thank you for that report. And now we're on to statements from the audience. So I will call up in the order that people signed up to speak. Just a reminder, please keep your comments to 3 minutes. If it goes over that, I do have a kill button that I will move you along because we have to get through all the statements and be fair to everyone who signs up to speak.
Well, that's great, Jody, because I'm quoting from my great-grandfather's obituary tonight. I'm Laura Marks. I'm from Heights Tree People has asked me to speak to you tonight, both to thank you for your support of our tree planting efforts and allowing us to plant on school grounds. We do want to let you know that we're competing with the induction ceremony at the high school, planting our 1,000th tree since Mother's Day of 2019. And the reason we've chosen the corner of Cedar and Lee inside the fence is because my great-grandfather, when he was a young man, worked with the county to extend Cedar Road from Coventry to Lee Road. The local farmers objected to this because there was a 6-foot tree standing at the corner. When they changed the plans and they rerouted Cedar Road a little bit to accommodate the tree, all the farmers signed the petition to extend Cedar Road. So we're honoring the past with this 1,000th tree, as well as looking forward to the next 200 years. So we hope you'll be there, and thanks so much for your support. If you get done with the induction ceremony, we'll be at the Bottle House celebrating.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you, Laura.
And next up is Eve McPherson, who's going to speak on middle school music.
Members of the Board of Education and Superintendent Kirby, thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak. I'm here today to address my concerns about the lack of elective choice for 8th graders at Roxborough Middle School. Currently, 8th graders are allowed to select only one elective class from the following: choir, band, orchestra, art, physical education, and project Lead the Way. In the recent past, 8th graders were allowed 2 electives. My older child was able to take both project Lead the Way and band. However, families are now told they can only take one elective and instead must enroll 8th graders in WIN classes for test preparation and RAA classes for social emotional learning. In my younger son's experience last year, in both WIN and RIA, he spent much of his time in front of computers completing coursework developed by outside companies. Because students are enrolled in WIN and RIA, they can no longer benefit, as they did a few years ago, from arts programming, and numerous studies have shown that participation in arts leads to positive outcomes, such as improved test scores, improved grades, an improved sense of well-being, and improved cognitive development. Studies show that instrumental music is particularly beneficial and leads to better outcomes in school regardless of socioeconomic status. Several 8th grade families have told me that their children wanted to continue in instrumental music this year, but were unable to do so because of scheduling issues. I heard the same complaint from families last year. While the district may think this disruption lasts just 1 year and that students can simply enroll again in high school, the truth is that this loss is significant. Because I have limited time to speak, I want to point out just 2 ways in which it is significant. First, many students in our schools borrow instruments from the school during the year. They cannot afford to buy their own instruments, which usually start at around $1,000 a piece. That's just the starting price. And once they lose access to the instruments, because they are not enrolled in an ensemble, they cannot even practice for the year or take private lessons in order to maintain their skill level. A loss of 1 year's playing is hard to recover from. These students will be unlikely to enroll in music the following year. And one family told me they feel they will also be unable to partake in Reaching Heights Music Camp, something their child loves, since they were told she could not enroll in band this year at Roxborough and because she does not have an instrument to play for the year. Second, by discouraging students from enrolling in any music ensemble in middle school, something which virtually all students were doing 4 years ago, students no longer have access to a welcoming social group where everyone works together to make a great collaborative product. Music ensembles are often social safety nets for these kids. They are places where students organically learn to support one another, bond, and root for everyone's success. That type of daily interaction in middle school can be both life-saving and life-altering. Heights has a long history of excellence in music, and while I am proud that we have produced many successful and occasionally celebrated musicians, for me, it is the community that music participation creates for these students that is most important.
Thank you, Eve. And our next speaker is Malcolm McPherson, and he's also going to talk on middle school music.
Thank you, Board. My name is Malcolm. I have been in the district since elementary school, and I participated in the music system for about as long as I can, starting in 4th grade and maintaining it for as long as I can. Throughout middle school, I was able to participate in music, language, and PLTW as electives. I still managed, however, to maintain good grades and good test scores. I also earned different distinctions, including Best Musician for middle school, as well as I am now the concert master of the Symphonic Winds Band and one of the 2 drum majors of the Heights Marching Band. It's pretty safe to say that I'm quite invested in the music program. However, over the past few years, I've seen an unfortunate trend in amount of participation in the music program, specifically at a middle school level. The marching band is used to receiving around 20 to 30-ish kids from the middle schools. These are new freshman kids. This year, we received around 10. The Rocks Middle School alone only had 8 students in their highest band in 8th grade. Where did all this time go? Why can't students pick more than one elective? Why are they forced to choose? It's because of these rather ineffective testing and social program classes. If we look at statistics, our schools, specifically Rocks Middle School, is performing no better than it did before the programs were implemented. We have maintained a relatively stagnant scores. These programs are ineffective and are taking away from other programs that are much more important. Heights Music is one of the things that has long been praised about our district. Families come into our district because of the music program. We are very good. It's hard for me to articulate. I listen to other high school bands because I have friends in other high schools, and I will listen to them, and there's a very clear difference. To quote my fellow drum major, Emily Lewis, music education, even at a baseline level, can give students a head start not only academically, but also simply as a person. It allows for a creative outlet unlike any other and can teach a student healthy ways to process emotions, but also what those emotions feel like, because of the intrinsic connections between music and emotions. If we are sacrificing the music program for these testing programs, which are already questionable to begin with, where are we going to go? Music programs are incredibly important for our school district, and I ask that we continue to support them rather than leaving them on the side. Thank you very much for this time.
Thank you, Malcolm, and I really appreciate hearing from students because that just gives us a whole new insight. So thank you for taking the time to speak tonight. Our next speaker is Amanda Urich, and she will also speak on middle school music programs.
Good evening. My name is Amanda Urich. I'm the parent of a 7th grader and a 10th grader, and both my children have participated in instrumental music since early elementary school. But in addition to being a parent, I'm actually an educator. My doctorate is in special education and applied behavior analysis, and I'm in my 17th year on faculty at CSU. And in fact, I teach graduate level courses that prepare current educators, future educators, and administrators in evidence-based intervention techniques, challenging behaviors, multi-tiered systems of support such as PBIS, which we heard about this evening from our Rocks Mid team. And I only mention these professional attributes to inform the context of the commentary I'm going to provide about music education that our students are currently unable to access. So currently, many of our young musicians have been prohibited from participating in their instrumental music due to either the language requirement of an IB school or due to the What I Need, the WIN intervention period that Rock students currently are mandated to take. These requirements will make it impossible for students to engage in instrumental music because of the schedule conflicts, and obviously this is frustrating for parents, but I'd like to address it from a different angle. As a professional in this field, this scheduling conflict is absolutely not necessary. There exists no federal mandate requiring an advisory period and an intervention period, especially for students with no data to indicate learning loss or academic risk. The mandate for language is only an IB requirement, not federal. And furthermore, those administrators who are responsible for this unnecessary scheduling conflict resulting in exclusion from music participation should be aware that this is a misapplication of a multi-tiered systems of support approach. Multi-tiered systems of support do not function as a one-way directive and mandatory intervention period regardless of student data. In fact, they should be informed by formative data of all students on an ongoing basis. It is the students' data that indicate whether or not they're engaged in these specific tiers of intervention. It is never a non-individualized mandate that blocks equity and access to other programming. This is a tremendous failure of this district. To prohibit our students from accessing programming due to a misapplication of multi-tiered systems of support is an embarrassment, and it compromises the professionalism and educational quality I would hope to be representative of the Heights. This policy needs to be guided by the base of research evidence and individual students' performance data, not by this blanketed misunderstanding of a multi-tiered system of intervention supports. I urge the board to correct this misapplication of this policy immediately before our students lose even more access to their music programs and subsequently our high school programs disappear altogether due to low enrollment. This eventuality is completely preventable if you choose to take corrective action. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your comments. And the next speaker is Gabe Schaefer, who will speak on Edmentum.
Good evening. I'm Gabe Schaefer, and I rise today to discuss Edmentum. The ladies before me spoke about the intervention period at Rocks Middle School, and one of the tools that they use is called Exact Path by Edmentum. And I understand that it has like very good intentions, but in fact it's very poorly implemented. And the biggest problem that I have is that it's not grade level appropriate for my children. And since I can't see the content ahead of time or afterwards, I've decided to opt my children out of it. I brought this up at the school level, and I was told that this was a district-wide initiative. And so luckily there's a board meeting. And so here I am to tell you that I'm opting my sons out of Edmentum, and they will not be participating. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. And we have one more speaker, Margaret Friedman, Union Rep. Oh, you thought you were signing to attend? Okay, all right. It's nice to meet you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. And that concludes our statements from the audience. Gabe, if you could give us your contact information, I'd like to follow up with you on your specific issues. So, okay, thank you. Me to move on?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So the next thing on our agenda is the consent agenda. So can I get a motion to consider the consent agenda?
I motion we consider the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Any discussion on the consent agenda?
I was really, I think we've said it before, very pleased to see the open positions getting filled. I was really thrilled to see that we had a third grade position get filled, which is dynamite. So bravo to HR and all.
I see we have some nice donations, and I want to thank the community for that. Well, if there's no more discussion, Mr. Gaynor, will you call the roll?
Mr. Hines?
Yes.
Ms. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Posh?
Yes.
Ms. Serini?
Yes. Okay, the next thing on our agenda is the superintendent's report. So I will turn it over to our superintendent, Elizabeth Kirby.
All right. Thank you very much. I'm going to ask Caitlin if you could go through it, please. Okay. All right, so good evening again. I will be reporting out on updates on work that we have been doing in the district aligned to our strategic plan goals. So as we go to the first slide, just want to share with board members in the community that we did have our September principals and assistant principals meeting this past September 20th and 21st. That meeting was facilitated by the Director of Principal Leadership, Rachel Coleman, and that agenda included professional development on building thinking classrooms in mathematics, MTSS, the recent school report cards, instructional coaching via OTES, and sharing the pacing guides for elementary, middle, and high school in the core areas. That's specifically important because we are in the midst of a curriculum adoption, and we want to make sure that we're giving good guidance on standards, the standards that should be covered this year. We also had our September district leadership team meeting last week. And at this meeting, we bring school and district leaders together. This past month, we looked at DLT structures, our recent ODE report card, and engaged in an exercise to analyze fall map data and its alignment to the OST. And one question that we often get is, does the map align? And we continue to see that alignment, which is why that assessment is very significant, and we use that to make instructional decisions. So that meeting was facilitated by Dr. Gould and a team of leaders here at the board. As relates to Goal 2, we did have one of our CTE students talk a bit about some of the upcoming events with CTE. But just in terms of some things happening in the classroom, seniors in the clinical health career CTE class had some practice during the month of September taking vitals. So staff and adults volunteered to be their patients, and they were able to get their temperature, heart rate, blood pressure, and breathing rate taken as well. This gave students an opportunity to practice bedside manner and communication, and would give them the experience they'll need as they prepare for their certification exams. Deshara also referenced that Gear Up Week was last week, so that was an opportunity to celebrate this big partnership in our district, and we had participants from both middle school and high school participate in activities. September 13th to the 15th, we had our second annual Equity Institute. So we had leaders from across our buildings attend to look at the cornerstones, which are the foundation of our equity work, and how we use those cornerstones to impact teaching and learning in the building and also policy, because we know that we get to our equity outcomes by action. And so again, helping to build foundational knowledge, but also really thinking through what those equity non-negotiables are in the district. For Goal 3, as referenced, we had a really fun homecoming, and the communications team put together a fun video that I want to just briefly show everyone that captures a very, very busy week that culminated with a 41-0 victory against Strongsville. I feel terribly saying it, but I do want to share that. So if you can hit that button for us, and we can kind of see it captured. Great. And I just want to take a moment to thank everyone. There's, as you all see, lots of planning that goes behind that. So there are many people for me to thank. I'm going to shout out a couple people, but I'm going to miss people. I definitely want to thank the high school team for all of their planning of the dance and the pep rally and all that stuff, right? So that's a lot. I also want to thank Chrissy Gallagher, who organized the parade. It was great. And Fairfax won, which was, a wonderful surprise because we've had a transportation winning multiple years in a row. But I also want to thank George and his team, both Norm, both Deontay, Ricky, for supporting the high schools. There was a fire the morning of the dance, and they worked very hard to get things cleaned up, get folks there. I know Dr. Towns was there really early trying to make sure that it could go off for the kids because, they really were excited to have the dance. So thank you for that because it was not expected. We had a hot glue gun that kind of started that, we believe. So thank you for that. And just thank you. It was a great. And I want to thank Kate's team for putting together that reel. That was very exciting as well. So I loved it so much, she knew I had to put it in the presentation. So that was homecoming. Student cadre also kicked off. We have lots of new members, lots of freshmen, so I'm very excited about that. We believe that our middle school cadre is a good, kind of a good pathway because many of the students who are now in the high school cadre were in the middle school cadre. We also in September had Goal 3, connected to Goal 3, coffee with the superintendent. The focus of that was attendance, so we had a really great conversation there. Heights Family Academy was held on September 16th with a focus on equity. And then that afternoon, we had a sickle cell walk in partnership with Cleveland Clinic. And then finally coming up, we do have the Hall of Fame, which is this week, October 5th, as mentioned by our student reporters. Coffee with the superintendent and board president will be October 12th. And we're going to focus on using data to support student success for that meeting. The blood drive for DECA, October 17th. The Addams Family is the musical for November, so there'll be more information coming out about that. I also wanted to share the Fall in Love with CTE Fair coming up on October 21st. And connected to some of the public comments this evening, we are going to be kicking off our music root cause committee work that's going to be led by Toya Robinson. Just wanted to give kind of a general outline there in terms of what the timeline is. There will be a survey that's going to go up on the district website for parents in the community. We'll have applications to be on that committee as well. And then that committee will establish dates to start meeting in early November. You see there the composition of that committee. So we will be working on that. We share the concerns around the music program and number of students participating. We do think it's multifaceted, so we want to make sure that we take a deep look at what's happening as it relates to that, using the knowledge and experience of the committee. So that concludes my report, and I'll take any questions.
My only question is, can we reach out to the people who spoke tonight about the music program and make sure they're aware of the root cause analysis and see if they want to participate and make sure that they fill out the survey or they know that they have the opportunity to do that?
Yes, I definitely will do that. And one thing I didn't mention, just because I'll talk about it in the November meeting, is I will be visiting at both middle schools and the elementary schools those intervention programs and also those school support classes, just to see what those are in action as well. So I was at Roxborough Middle School earlier today looking at some of the Rocks in Action classes, and I'll be going across the district, but I'll be returning just to make sure I have a solid understanding of what implementation looks like this year. To kind of have some data to go with the concerns that have been shared.
Let us know if you want any board members to go with you on that,
Yeah.
to accompany you on that.
Yeah, that may be good, then you have
We're
that
always
context,
eager to
too.
go visit
Yeah.
buildings.
Right, yeah, and at some point, we'll need to schedule our walkthroughs for the year, too.
Yeah.
I want to get that on our calendar, because it's one of those things that's easy as
They
the
get
school
away,
year goes, that,
yeah.
it gets away, and it's hard to make sure that we all have time to get those in.
Also, I think it's, it's worth just saying out loud that this is, I mean, I'm sure I'm speaking for us all when I say we were all really happy to have the folks speak up tonight, but I also want them to know that, this is something that's been on our minds. Attending functions and seeing the size of the marching band, I will be very interested to see what the root cause analysis shows up. I think that we could probably, point to some of the contributing factors, just right now tonight, but the relative impact of those different factors and is where you get into a big problem. But, I think that, as Malcolm said, so well, the arts are one of the things that really has historically made this district really shine and, arguably define us. We all have kids who went through the programs. I went through the vocal music program. My wife still you can't measure the impact of the instrumental music program on her. So, we are incredibly eager to get to the root cause and to address it and to help a new sort of rebirth of all of these programs.
I think there's another dimension here too. I mean, we've heard repeatedly through comments, not only here, but via email and parents calling us, questioning the value of some of these programs. And Malcolm pretty much made, clearly these programs didn't help him. And I would just love to be able to see some data that actually, are these programs really helping? Are they needed? Are they implemented? I mean, maybe the programs are needed, but they need to be implemented slightly differently. We can't, one size doesn't fit all. When I hear things multiple years in a row where, the last half of the day, my child, I'm speaking on behalf of a parent here, we're speaking through a parent, basically sits on their device and they don't do anything. Now, I don't know how true that is. I think there's frustration because they'd much rather be in an elective, which maybe in their eyes is more interesting, more engaging. My kids were not involved in the music programs, but I will tell you as an employer, and when I've been to conferences and some of the best practices in my tech industry is you hire people with music backgrounds, because they know how to make things click. They're social. They do different things. It's like one of those secret sauces that people really don't tell you about. And this goes back to the days of IBM. So this is where we've learned this. So leading companies hire people that have music backgrounds just because they just sort of have that special way with either coding or programming or socializing or sales or management, and it's. I think it's important that we keep that up, or make it an option. It was really sad seeing the size of the marching band. I don't want to throw cold water on a great homecoming, and I thought it was great, but
Yes.
When you saw that small group of people, it's just like, wow, we need to find some corrective action to fix this. So I think you need to look at this from both directions. Obviously, the root cause.
Yeah.
But also look at it from the other direction too. I think you're going to find that there's less people there because there's just no opportunity.
I'd look at it like you can't say you've had a well-rounded education unless you've had the arts.
Well,
unless they've been, significant. But there's layers to this too. Is that we've been as a district sort of evolving, and we have now, for instance, we have IB. And the IB work that we do has real ramifications on the academic program that we're offering. And so, I'm a big fan of IB, but it's what we're talking about is a really large catalog of concepts and issues that there's a lot. So this is going to be not a small lift for us to dig down into this.
Yeah, we may need to take a look at middle school IB as well as we explore the music. 'Cause,
Superintendent, how many years have the WIN and RIA periods been in place? Is this the second year or the third? I've lost track, sorry.
At
Roxmed.
I do not, two, okay.
So we're now in year 2 of
Yeah,
this?
this is the
Okay.
second year, okay.
Okay, thank you.
I will say that the intervention periods are periods, though, that schools have had, elementary school. Those models have been in place, but maybe the specific one that was referenced tonight, 2 years.
Thank you.
Couple of observations that I've made. Obviously, I'm a parent who had a kid who was in the instrumental music department. He was in concert, he played winds as well as in the marching band. You're going to see the same thing if you go to an orchestra concert, as well as a band concert, that the sizes of those groups have gotten smaller and
We have
smaller.
fewer students making music.
Right, yes, we have fewer students making music. I'm always impressed, though, when I see that small band and their sound is every bit as phenomenal as bands that are 3 times the size of theirs. So we have really good musicians.
Yes.
And we have really good music teachers. So the educators have really put their heart and soul in this, and I think we owe it to them, as well as the kids, to really take a look at this and get to the root of the issue and solve it. I mean, it's one of the things we're known for, and we need to keep that. We absolutely need to keep it. So I want to thank everyone in advance who's going to participate in this root cause analysis and help us solve this issue.
Thank you.
And just one other comment. We also had one of our AP scholars tonight is our concert master in the orchestra. So when we talk about music being important to academics, there is definitely a correlation.
Oh, yeah. Music makes us better human beings in general, and
Absolutely.
we want to make sure that we produce lots of good human beings, so.
Absolutely.
Well, let's not ignore it's the entire arts, okay? So
Yes.
it's
Well, that's
music
true. No,
and
I mean-
everything.
Not just music,
So
it is the
I
entire
know what
arts.
you're saying.
Yes, no, you're right.
was-
I mean, we encourage our students to write, to draw, to make
To
music.
create.
To
create.
use that part of their brain to access things that are much harder to access without the arts.
Okay, so the next thing on the agenda is the first reading of policies Group B. So I think I'll call Dr. Lombardo up. Oh, no, wait. Oh, nope, sorry, one more thing before you, Dr. Lombardo. It's the resolution to make provisional changes to board policies and administrative guidelines and forms to comply with HB 33. So I will call you up, Dr. Lombardo.
Yes. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
The first provision, this resolution, board action is requested. And I just want to read through a couple paragraphs. This has to do with the House Bill 33 and significant structural changes. So amended House Bill 33 makes significant structural changes to the Ohio Department of Education, including renaming the Department of Education as the Department of Education and Workforce, DEW, creating the position of the Director of Education and Workforce, who will be appointed by the governor with the advice and consent of the Senate, establishing within the DEW the Division of Career Tech Education and the Division of Primary and Secondary Education, each of which will be led by the Deputy Director appointed by the Director of Education with the advance and consent of the Senate, creating the Department of Children and Youth, creating the position of Director of Children and Youth, and transferring most of the power of the duties of the State Board of Education and the Superintendent of Public Instruction to the DEW, the Director of Education and Workforce, the Department of Children and Youth, and/or Director of Children and Youth. And then if you go over to the second page, by the Board of Education that any and all references to the Department of Education, and this speaks to our board policies, our administrative guidelines and forms. The Ohio Department of Education, Department or ODE, contains in the board's existing policies and corresponding administrative guidelines and forms shall, after the effective date of House Bill 33, and that's October 2nd, yesterday, mean the Department of Education and Workforce, DEW, or the Department of Children and Youth for all purposes set forth, described in House Bill 33. And to that extent, the existing board policies and corresponding administrative guidelines and forms reference the State Superintendent of Public Instruction and or State Board of Education. Such references after the effective date of yesterday shall be mean the Department of Education and Workforce, the Director of Education and Workforce, and the Department of Child and Youth and or Director of Children and Youth as applicable, set forth by House Bill 33. So what this does is it's allow us to operate under the new structure without having to go back and do 3 readings of every board policy, every administrative guideline, and every form. But as we do approve policies and administrative guidelines, you'll see that those edits will be changed throughout those readings. But this allows us to, govern under the new structure with one resolution.
Dr. Lombardo, the new structure is technically under a temporary restraining order?
Yeah.
Is that right? So
Yes.
are we going to pull this back if things change again?
Well, that's a great question. Most likely there'll be another resolution that I'll be bringing
this resolution.
to undo this. And I think you brought up this question when this first started, I think in the summer, Malia, that what are we going to do with all the board policies? Well, this is the solution they have at this time, and I would imagine you're going to see more changes as we move through the year, unfortunately.
So a lot of us are pretty upset with this whole structure, and we feel that the representatives that we voted to be members of our state school boards are, for the lack of another term, been neutered. I mean, they're not allowed to function, and they don't function, and the control has been given to the governor. What are the ramifications if we vote no for this?
Well, I really don't have that answer, but I just know to be in compliance with the new structure, this is the recommendation moving forward. If you chose not to vote for it, I would get that answer for you right away, but that would be something the board would have to consider.
So, I'm actually really leaning toward voting no, because I believe that the Ohio legislature is out of order. These are the same, so what they did, in the 1950s, a constitutional convention was called in the state of Ohio to revise our state constitution. And at that constitutional convention, changes were made to the makeup and powers of the state's Board of Education. And those amendments were voted on by the people of the state of Ohio, and they were passed. Fast forward 50, 70 years, and we have a state legislature that put on the ballot, spent $20 million of Ohio taxpayers' money to shoehorn a constitutional amendment onto the August ballot in violation of their own law that they passed a year earlier, to increase the threshold of passing an amendment changing the Ohio Constitution to a supermajority under the tagline, wait for it, protect Ohio's Constitution. So the Constitution is meaningless to these people. If the Constitution mattered to the Ohio legislature, then we wouldn't have gone 26 years with an unconstitutional funding program. So I am inclined tonight to vote no, because I think that this is an illegitimate order passed on by the Ohio legislature. And if you discover that there is a significant reason involving our students, our staff, then I would be eager to reconvene and reconsider it. But until then, I will be voting no.
So, Paul, one of the things that you mentioned is for us to operate the way we have to, because this changes things in our policies. Okay, so I think we need to operate this organization legally. But I do want to vote no for this, because I would like our lawyers to go back and give us some escape clause that basically tell us that we may disagree with this, but we're doing it to keep our organization compliant with state law. I would like to be able to go on record for that, and because we're under a temporary restraining order and they can't deploy this anyways, we can operate as we do right now, because the name hasn't changed, the same people, and that is going to be, I mean, we don't know how long this legislation is going to go. I mean, I think we need to be prepared for this, but I'd like to see another, be it further resolved.
Mm-hmm.
That basically gives us some cover, and if we have some cover with that, then I would vote for this, because I do think we need to be compliant with state law, even though we disagree with it, because we follow the laws in this land, and that's, I don't appreciate the fact people changing it, but that's not the fault of this district, you, the lawyers, or anybody.
Why don't we make a motion to table this for now
Yes.
and bring it back at the next
That was going to be
meeting, or-
my recommendation is, it's I feel my position a duty to make sure that the board's protected at all times. So if we pulled it off, made a recommendation to pull it off, I'll get more information for you so that you wouldn't have to vote no, but we can bring it back the next month
I
and
appreciate
discuss that.
your sense of duty to protect us and make sure that we are in compliance. And as Jim said, we want to operate in a compliant manner. But given that House Bill 33 has disenfranchised Ohioans and is not itself compliant, I don't see any way we can address this today. I mean, I think tabling it is absolutely the right idea, and I so move that we table this resolution.
But Paul, in order to be compliant, if we need to reconvene to vote this, just so we're in compliance, I mean, I think we would do that, and
Yeah, we can always get
we
three.
would vote yes.
Sure.
But I think what's helping us at this point is the fact that it's not stayed. I can't pull the name. The implementation has
Temporary
been put on
injunction.
hold.
Temporary injunction.
It's been put on
And I'll reach out to legal tomorrow, first thing, to get information on this right away.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And if we need to come back, we come back.
So we need a vote to table this, correct?
Do you need a second?
Motion from Molly on that.
Okay, so do we need a second?
Second.
Mr. Gaynor, will you call the roll?
Mr. Hines.
Yes.
Ms. Lewis.
Yes.
Mr. Posh. Yes. Ms. Serini.
Yes.
All right, the second thing is this does not need board action tonight. We practice 3 readings with our policies, and I'm bringing forth with you the first reading of policies that you see that are that were sent and also that are in board docs. These were all released in August, and I will make note that I did put the, Jody, from your recommendation to put in the qualifications, policy 0142. That's been placed on there for a first reading as well.
I noticed that. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
That's the one that requires a school board and a member to actually live in the district within our borders.
Oh, wonder why that's necessary.
That
Okay.
that was recommended by OSBA to add that.
I think that's an excellent policy that we should have.
Based on a recent case that we're all familiar
Yeah.
with. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, with that in mind, Lindsay and OSBA gave us a bunch of other recommendations too. I want to make sure that, I mean, maybe you already did to see if we're in compliant with all those.
That was the one that I was aware of,
Okay,
that Lindsay had recommended.
there was a few others. I'll check into that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So no action on this tonight unless anybody has any questions on any of these policies for Dr. Lombardo?
Yeah, no, I've only had a few questions and you've already addressed them. Thank you.
Okay.
And
Deeper
since-
dive next week.
Yeah, since we don't vote on these tonight and we just tabled the one before it, there may be some changes to these based on the answer to the one we tabled.
That's
So
very true.
I
That's
trust
very
you,
true.
because reading through these, I saw that, so I was like,
Yes, the changing of the name. So I will address, I'll get that information for you.
okay,
And
thank you very
really,
much.
Paul, if it turns out that that we're putting anything in jeopardy, reach out. We'll come back here on a moment's notice and
No, that's great.
we can field three, I'm sure, without any
Yeah,
problem.
yeah, I want the board to feel comfortable at all times, obviously. So we'll make sure we get the info to you right away. All right,
Thank you.
thanks.
And now on to the treasurer's report, the three things.
All right.
Mr. Gaynor.
Thank you. One thing before the three things, speaking of Columbus, so this is the big month,
favorite
October.
topic, our
yeah,
favorite topic.
So we're excited to find out what our state funding is going to be. So we'll know that with our first payment in October, which is generally the middle of the month. So I think that will fall on the 13th, if that's the Friday.
So we're waiting with bated breath.
We are.
Okay.
So as soon as we know that, we'll be able to update the forecast, and we'll be bringing a new 5-year forecast to you all.
Yeah,
And
so-
it's the October forecast that we send down to Columbus?
November now.
Oh, November,
Yeah,
sorry,
yeah, we
okay.
changed that to November.
Yes, we already did our hiring back in March. Kids are already in. We still don't know what the state's going to give us.
Absolutely, that's correct.
And they give us 30 days to take the final number and create a 5-year forecast.
Oh, yeah. So we have to tell them, 5 years in advance exactly how we're spending and all our receipts.
Even though they only have to operate on a 2-year budget.
Correct. Go figure. So more to come on that, but I just wanted to make sure that everyone was aware of that, so we're excited about that. All right, so three things. So for this month, our three things, and again, as a reminder for our folks at home, as part of the Strategic Plan Goal 5, Objective 3, we have three things each month, just as quick bites of information that we want to help inform and educate all stakeholders regarding district finances and school funding in the state of Ohio. So the first thing we have today is indirect cost rate. And so I don't think, and certainly through three things, we've never talked about this, but I don't know if anyone is aware of this concept, but it became kind of a hot topic for us with ESSER because of the size of that grant. So what we do on an annual basis is calculate an indirect cost rate. And it's really kind of our cost of doing business, or the overhead cost, that we're allowed to charge back to grants or other things for the administration of that. So we, for all the state and federal grants, we take a small percentage of that. We're able to take that money and move that back into the general fund, and that is to offset the costs for the district to administer and operate that grant.
Does that amount, the indirect cost rate, come from the amount that is awarded in the grant, or is that a supplemental charge to the feds, for example?
No, it comes as a deduction from the amount awarded in the grant.
Okay.
So
Okay, thank
we
you.
submit a proposal each year, and we do the calculation. ODE reviews the proposal, and they determine whether or not it's acceptable, and then we're allowed to start charging that to each of the individual grants. So that's what we do. That's one of the things we use to pay for our supervisor of federal programs position. So that's one of the ways that we offset the cost of her actually doing the administration of all these grants. And it's a sizable amount of grants and a sizable amount of time that is spent doing that. So we have here, as you can see on the third bullet, for fiscal '23, our ICR back to the general fund was just under 200,000. That was 196,000. Again, higher than typical because of the ESSER funding, but in a typical year, we could see anywhere from $50,000 to $100,000 a year that we would charge the grants and pull that back into general fund. And in the grand scheme of things, one could argue, well, maybe we should just leave it in the grant. And really, I think what that allows us to do is to bring money back into the general fund. And if it was something that we were going to pay from the grant anyway, we can just do it from the general fund. But if it's not, it gives us more flexibility to pay for additional costs. So any questions on the indirect cost rate? So that's, again, something that I think folks don't know that we do, that we wanted to make sure that people were aware of that.
So for people who work with, say, grants from the National Institutes of Health or the National Science Foundation, your home institution, the equivalent to the school district, charges their cost, but that is on top of the amount allocated. That's why I asked my question. So it's a different system, and we have many people who are scientists in our community. So just to understand that it's taken from the amount granted. It's not on top of.
Correct.
Got it. Thank you.
Got it. Yep, absolutely. That's a good question. All right, so number 2, this is something that we gave notice of to everyone a couple of weeks ago, but just wanted to bring it up. I know we've talked about it kind of in conjunction with the annual comprehensive financial report. I hate that they changed the order of that acronym because I still want to call it the CAFR, but anyway.
The CAFR rolls off the tongue trippingly.
This does not. So anyway, so we typically submit that document for 2 different award considerations, and one being this Government Finance Officers Association Certificate of Excellence for financial reporting. And so 3 weeks ago, we got the notice that they finally gave us that, the district that award for the 2022 CAFR. So what happens is, June 30th, our fiscal year ends June 30th of 2022. It takes 6 months for the audit and the creation of the ACFR to happen, and then there's a 6 to 9 month period of review by this organization to do their thing and make sure that it's compliant and all that wonderful stuff. So they go through that process, and so here in September we were notified of that award for our fiscal 22 ACFR. So that was our 24th year for that.
And we are duly proud because that's an important signifier of the quality of work.
To you and your team.
That's a joint effort all the way around. So appreciate everyone who does the work on that document. And the good thing about this award consideration, other than actually getting the award, is that as they go through the review process, they give you feedback every year. So every year we've been able to refine the document and make sure that we make the changes that they suggest, and so that's helpful too, because then that ends up being a document that's more meaningful and informative for the community.
I think it also needs to be said here that there's 600 some districts in the state of Ohio, and a very, very small percentage get this kind of award and have this quality of fiscal excellence. Sorry about that. This isn't just something that every single school district gets. I mean, you have to work for it, and you've got to earn it, and
it is voluntary. So folks, districts don't even necessarily do a CAFR or an ACFR, but that's something that we have found, particularly in our district and our community, that's an expectation that people want to see that additional information and all the statistics that it provides. So
but there's a lot of things. It's like looking at the 5-year forecast in every single financial report that we get, as opposed to once or twice a year. I mean, these are important numbers that, these are best practices that we follow. And I look at the state report card. There's so many things where we sort of get, in my opinion, cheated on because people don't understand the best practices and the excellence that's really behind the work of our staff. And this is just another example. So, thanks.
All right, and speaking of best practices, so our third item is the certificate of transition. So this is something that you will hear about, and you hear more about these days than before, but the Auditor of State, as best practice, wants districts to have a certificate of transition so that if something happens to your treasurer, that everything that is, needed for someone to step in and do that job is there and available. So there's a formal document that is completed. It's only mandated to be completed if I were to say I'm retiring at the end of the year, and then you have to go through that process and you have to demonstrate that you've done it. But we do it just because I could be hit by a bus tomorrow, or have a heart attack or whatever happens, and it would be a good thing for, I know, but you think about these things, right?
We don't want to
I think about
consider
these
that
things.
possibility.
Or you could win the Powerball and
Or I
just
could
walk
win
out.
the $1 billion Powerball, and that's
say,
okay.
"I'm
That's a
done."
more positive spin on it. We'll go with that. But at any rate, so we want to have this document available. I have a link out there to what it looks like, but it really just provides all of the information about our banking and investments, and Eric, as our assistant treasurer, is a licensed treasurer. He has access to this document, so if anything happened to me immediately, he could, on an interim basis, step in and do the things he has to do and have access to all that information. So it's just
But the
something
lights
that's
will
a
stay
best
on.
practice.
Right.
What's that?
The lights will stay on.
Yeah, they will stay on. So that's just something that, we want to make sure that the board and the community knows
That's great.
is there and kind of a safeguard in case of anything happening, like the Powerball.
Like the Powerball.
The Powerball.
Yes.
You're going to go buy a
You'll go
ticket
to
on the way home,
Tahiti.
right?
No, I never
come
buy
back.
it. Yeah. No. That's it for the 3 things this month.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Mhm.
thank you. President Wright is not here, so I'm not sure what would be in her president's report, other than I wanted to ask the board if there was any idea of doing some kind of resolution in support of the 7 state school board members who are suing the governor and about this House Bill 33, and I think that it's something that we might want to consider doing some kind of resolution in support of them, so.
I have found Toledo's resolution and
Yeah.
spent a very productive hour on an airplane editing it before sending it to you. So if that's something that is agreeable to the board, I could bring that next month. There's also, this might be a completely different approach. There's also the option of joining that lawsuit. We have a habit of sticking our necks out when it comes to lawsuits, so that's a different level of conversation than a resolution in support of what the State Board of Education members are doing, and that's going to require some balancing.
So my gut feeling on that one is, I think a resolution is very appropriate for this board. Unlike the voucher lawsuit, where we actually have fiscal harm that's been done to this district on behalf of this district and our citizens. I think that's a different story.
Yes.
So would really have to be convinced. I mean, I'm really not sure the value of joining that lawsuit from a perspective of a school district.
Of an individual Board of Education as opposed, yeah.
I mean, and I'm not even sure that, as much as I think we'd all want to, I'm just not sure it's appropriate use of school district funds for something like that.
So the Toledo board has joined. When I was in DC, one of the nice things, as is always the case, so you get to meet new board members from around the state, and in this case around the country, and so I got to meet a woman from Toledo who I think was behind that resolution, and she emailed it to me also. And I agree that at this point it's probably not something that we'd be looking at. However, there may be they may be looking for districts to write amicus briefs, to submit amicus briefs.
In support of their suit.
In support of the suit. And here's the thing that we do want to keep our eye on, is that if the state gets away with this redefinition, unilateral redefinition of the responsibilities and powers of the State Board of Education, what's stopping them from doing the same with the local Board of Education?
Yep.
And so I think that we should keep an eye on that. That's all. When it comes to this lawsuit, and that's why we may want to. I think that a resolution is absolutely appropriate, but we also may want to look at if there are other appropriate opportunities for us to engage deeper.
I think at this point, I would definitely support a resolution. As Jim said, I would have to be convinced to move beyond that, but I do think if there is an opportunity to submit, a amicus brief, we might want to consider that. I'm very concerned about the stripping elected officials of their duties and their power, and I think that every elected official in this state ought to be concerned about this. I mean, whether it's school boards or city governments or anyone. I mean, it's really scary that with one House bill, you can make a decision like that. So that's just something I agree we need to keep our eye on. So,
and more scary than to the elected people in Ohio, it's terrifying for the voters of Ohio,
right,
because it means that your vote has just been rendered meaningless.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
You've been functionally disenfranchised.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. So Malia, thank you for taking the lead on that resolution, and yes, I think we should put it on for
November.
For November.
Okay.
The only other thing from the board president's report I'd like to bring up is that we are changing some meeting dates. So obviously tonight's our regular meeting. We have decided we are not having a work session in October. We normally do that, but we're going to move it to November, which is a month that sometimes we don't have a work session because of Capitol Conference and the way Thanksgiving falls. So we will continue to have our regular meeting on November 7th. That will be at 7 o'clock. And then we're going to add a work session, which will be on November 16th, which is actually a Thursday.
And that conflicts with the first of the instrumental music concerts, which makes me sad. But just means we all have to show up for the second one on Friday, the 17th.
Very good to know. Thank you. And so that work session will be at 6:30, and the topic will be an update on MSAN. So just to let everyone know that.
So we are okay having a meeting during election night? I just want to make sure. I mean, not sure we can fit in because of Capitol Conference. I think we have to.
Well, we discussed that in our leadership meeting with Liz, and we decided that since there was no contested Board of Education candidates, we thought that it would be okay to have a board meeting on Election Day.
Okay.
So are there any board committee reports?
The Heights Schools Foundation.
They're having a party on Thursday.
Big party on Thursday, celebrating some amazing Heights High grads. It's so funny. The more you do this, the less surprised you get. But here I am in Washington, D.C. on a bus over to the Capitol, strike up a conversation with the guy next to me who's a member of the board in Columbus. And turns out he's a 91 grad of Heights High.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. So.
Columbus School Board?
Columbus, yeah. And their president, their president, who's a former Chief Justice of the Ohio Supreme Court, of course, went to kindergarten and first grade in Cleveland Heights University Heights. So, yeah.
All roads lead back to
How Tiger Nation rules the world.
I told him that we're starting to call Columbus Tiger Nation South, because we're there so often.
All right, well, we do have one item under new business, and that is the resolution to recognize Freedom to Read Week. And Malia, since you are the one who brought this to us, do you want to discuss this?
Yes, the problem is I did not print a hard copy, and I've got to make this machine give it to me so I can read it. Okay. October is Right to Read Month, as observed by the American Library Association, and this week is Right to Read Week as part of Right to Read Month. The board of the Cleveland Heights University Heights library system has asked us to pass a resolution in support of Freedom to Read Week. We used to call it Banned Books Week, but somehow that cuts a little bit too close to the bone because there is so much banning of books going on. So this twist is to try to remember why having access to knowledge is so important. And if you'll indulge me, I will read this quickly. A resolution in support of the freedom to read. Whereas the freedom to read is protected in our Constitution, and whereas the freedom to read is essential to our democracy, and reading is amongst our greatest freedoms, and whereas intellectual freedom is essential to the preservation of a free society and a creative culture, and whereas conformity limits the range and variety of inquiry and expression on which our democracy and our culture depend, and whereas the Cleveland Heights University Heights City School District provides a challenging and engaging education to prepare all our students to become responsible citizens and succeed in college and career. And whereas some individuals, groups, and public authorities work to remove or limit access to reading materials, to censor content in schools, to label, quote, controversial, unquote, views, to distribute lists of, quote, objectionable, unquote, books or authors, and to purge libraries of materials reflecting the diversity of society. And whereas Americans still favor free enterprise in ideas and expression and can be trusted to exercise critical judgment, to recognize propaganda and misinformation, and to make their own decisions about what they read and believe, and to exercise the responsibilities that accompany this freedom. And whereas the CHUH City School District seeks to foster those same skills in our students. And whereas the American Library Association's Banned Books Week, celebrating the freedom to read, is observed each year as a reminder to Americans not to take their precious freedom for granted. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Cleveland Heights University Heights Board of Education recognizes the American Library Association's Banned Books Week, October 1st through 7th, 2023, and throughout this month of October. And be it further resolved that the CHUH Board of Education believes that our state-licensed professional teachers, librarians, and administrators are best qualified to make decisions regarding the appropriateness of reading materials for our students. And be it further resolved that the CHUH Board of Education reminds parents and families that a policy already exists to provide alternate reading material to a student upon request. And be it further resolved that the CHUH Board of Education encourages our students and staff to read materials representative of all the various and diverse people in our society. And be it further resolved that the CHUH City School District decisively advocates that free people read freely, now and forever.
Nice.
Thank you. Now, I'm the first to admit that I will crib good language from someone else and then make it fit our needs, so.
Well, that's how you save time, and we're all busy.
Yes.
Plus, there's something powerful about aligning around common language instead of everybody creating their own, because that's how you actually get a message to start to penetrate, is if you align around common language. So I believe I should have asked for a motion to consider the resolution to recognize Freedom to Read Week.
I would like I so motion.
Okay, and do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Mr. Gaynor, can you take the roll?
Ms. Lewis.
Yes.
Mr. Posh.
Yes.
Ms. Serini.
Yes.
Mr. Hines.
Yes.
Thank you for bringing that to us.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Great.
More next month, right?
Is there any unfinished business?
Yes. So at the end of our last meeting, I believe, without taking a formal vote, but a kind of a straw vote, I believe all 5 board members were pretty secure in saying that we want to see the community to have access to our high school pool.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're very concerned about that. Since that meeting, there's been a lot of changes at the city level in how they're approaching this when it comes to, putting together a study. And one of the sound bits I had is them looking at building an indoor pool. Another sound bite is, okay, well, Cumberland, which is a city pool in Cleveland Heights, is going to get closed because there may be some construction, and we may have to go to other cities to find a pool to accommodate the community. So I know we can only control things that we can control, okay? And we've offered the city to use the pool on multiple occasions, using the same terms that we've had before, which seemed to be good enough before. I think we need to make sure the community really truly understands our intent of making sure that pool is available to the two cities. We can even include South Euclid if we need to, so the pool can be used. But there are some conditions. I mean, there's certain things that we can't pay for. We can't run our own rep program, and we're not going to do that. That's not in our, it's not what we do. If there's cost associated with them running the pool, they've got to deal with it. But we also have to say that our students really do come first, our swim team, our athletics. I'd love to see a Learn to Swim program eventually for our middle schoolers, so we can make sure all middle schoolers, by the time they get to the high school, know how to swim. These are things that we've had individual conversations with about. And I would like to see our board leadership and our superintendent and athletic director, and I'd like to see us come together to put something together that's official, that's something that's documented, that's something maybe on our website. This is our position when it comes to the pool. Now, granted, we've got a lot of competing priorities. I'll leave it to our board leadership to determine how we address this. But from this single board person's perspective, I'd like to make sure the community really understands and has the facts, because by the time they come out of a public official's voice at the city level, and by the time it filters down to a community level, that the truth is not there. It's inaccurate.
We've had this conversation in this room at least twice before. And all five of us are very clear that the pool at Heights High, is a community asset, and that outside of its primary use by the students of the school district, it ought to be available to the community. And I mean, nobody has ever on this day has said anything other than that. I'm a little tired of having to keep saying it, because it's like, again, we are a school district. We are not a recreation program.
Right, and I think the community should understand that it's not an appropriate use of educational funds to run a community swim program. We can make the facility available. However, we cannot absorb the cost of paying lifeguards for that. We cannot absorb the cost for the insurance that requires.
And whatever
we
is
cannot,
involved with selling passes and checking passes, all those things.
Right.
I mean, that's why you pay taxes to your municipality to run recreation programs, right?
So, and I want to be clear that when we say we cannot do that, this is not something that is an opinion, that this is something that we do not want to do. This is something that it would be illegal for us to do. And there would be a finding for recovery almost certainly issued by the state of Ohio against the school district, against us.
Us personally.
For doing that.
Well, the five of us.
And therefore, we simply cannot do that. And I, speaking for myself here, am just disappointed and confused about the city's inability to do something under the current form of government that was virtually automatic under the previous form of government. That this just happened. And this was not a big deal. This was seen as something that was in the best interest of the citizens. I think exercise still is. I'm not up on the current medical data, but I think it's still a good idea for people to swim. So I don't think that's changed. But it's just really disappointing that this seems to be entirely out of reach when it has been done many times.
Well, we seem to be spinning our wheels doing all this. I just want to say, okay, this is the kit. This is
Yes.
this is when it's available. This is this is the requirements, and just put it out there and say, hey, look, if you want to come to the table and deal with this, this is all. I mean, it's already been figured out.
And let me go one step further. That, like, if another organization wants to come to us, at this point, I want people to be able to swim. And if this is beyond reach of our local city governments, but it's not out of reach of another well-established organization that has the capacity to pull it off in a professional manner, then I will listen. I just want to I want people to be able to swim.
But I think a lot of staff time has been spent on this. What I would like to see
Absolutely.
is just,
Right,
hey, look,
which is
this is X,
unfortunate,
Y,
yeah.
and Z.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, these are the forms, these are the documents, and I mean, and then we need to continue doing what we do.
Right. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. The wheel's
Right.
already been made.
Yeah, but if someone comes
works.
to me and saying, the city's thinking about putting an indoor pool here, or the city doesn't know where to use, it's like,
Not between now and December.
Yeah, here, you can do this.
We've got a pool between now and December. If there's a pipe dream about they want to put a dome over Forest Hill, that's great. But we've got a pool that can be used this December.
And we have historic use agreements.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's been done before. We have model use agreements from other communities.
Yeah.
We know that, Shaker does it, Beechwood does it, Westlake does it. I'm just looking at the collection of documents in my folder here.
Yeah.
It's not hard.
I know there's some issues with Shaker. They're opening up, I believe, a second pool now for their, because they have two pools. And there was concern about, I believe, doing it on a Sunday because they don't keep the building open, but they're hiring a custodian that is going to work, I think, a Thursday to Sunday shift, or maybe a Sunday, a Sunday to Thursday shift, just so that they could get the pool open.
So they'd have coverage.
Yeah, and then there was some way of funding that outside of the school district. I don't know any of the details. I heard that secondhand, so I don't even know if it's true or not, but it seemed like it was.
I think the point is that collaboration between cities and school districts happens all the time elsewhere around swimming pools, and there's really no reason for it not to happen with us.
And we are eager to collaborate.
Yeah, I don't know a single school district that's running a community swim program.
Yeah.
At least not in the state of Ohio.
I do have one other item.
Okay.
Did you have anything else?
Oh,
Jim?
I'm done.
I just wanted to put another House bill in people's awareness. Our legislature has been busy solving problems that don't exist. HB 267 has been put forward, and HB 267 would, for the first time in Ohio history, I think, would make local school board elections partisan.
Right.
And we'll all be comforted to know that the Fordham Institute is in full support of it. And it just seems so absolutely unnecessary and unfortunate that we are politicizing public education. But this is where we are. So I would encourage everyone to start flooding the mailboxes of our state representatives saying that this is unnecessary and I would say counterproductive. HB 267.
Okay. Any other announcements, correspondence?
No.
Okay. Then if nobody has anything else, can I get a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
Can I get a second?
You got a second.
Mr. Gaynor, will you call the roll?
Mr. Hines?
Yes.
Ms. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Posh?
Yes.
Ms. Serini?
Yes. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you all.